acknowledgement. Just beautiful, beautiful. My topic this morning, it fits exactly so beautifully with that wonderful song. It is intuition or ego determining the real inner voice. And we chose it as one of our themes because it's often been a question that's asked to me in counseling. It's often been a question that's asked to other ministers in counseling, and that is, but how do I know? How do I know that the voice I'm hearing, the direction I'm getting, is intuition and isn't ego or isn't imagination or isn't something else? How do I know that it's intuition? And so that's what we're going to look at today. And I just want to, first of all, for all of you real students of Science of Mind, and I'm very pleased we have a very good student of Science of Mind with us this morning. Dr. John Walker is here, and he has a couple of books on the Science of Mind. Dr. John. So I wanted to say that for John and for all of the rest of you that know the Science of Mind teaching inside out and backwards, I'm going to use ego not the way Ernest Holmes uses it, because Ernest Holmes uses ego as that personality that is the real person. And then I would be saying, well, am I discussing or am I talking? You see, it means the same in the Science of Mind. Pardon me. It means the same in the Science of Mind. Remind me next time that I hug people and I have this microphone on, that I can't do heart to heart, I have to do right to right, because heart to heart moves my microphone and then I give Josh all sorts of problems. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So, so in the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes talks about ego in a particular way. I'm not going to talk about it that way. I'm going to talk about it the way Eckhart Tolle talks about it, and also most of us, when we think about ego, we think about that part of us that is all connected with fear, that is connected with staying the same, maintaining a status quo, not making changes. And that voice will always keep us from moving into anything, good, bad, or indifferent. Its whole job is to keep us safe. And that means it thinks, if it could be separate from us, it's the part of us that wants everything to remain the same. And you know how much you can grow that way. Exactly. Zero. You can grow zero that way. It's not going to help you at all to just maintain the status quo. It isn't what you came here to do. So, intuition is what we are looking at. And I read I'll share with you a story that I found just before I forget that I was on my radar. A young couple had begun as roommates, male and female, and then they had developed into a love relationship. They invited his mom over for dinner, but they decided it was too soon to tell her about the new status in relationship. So they maintained, we're just roommates, Mom. We're just roommates, Mom. And Mom had a feeling they were more than roommates. I'm sorry, Josh, this keeps moving. So they had a wonderful dinner and they went home. And after that, the young woman said, you know, I can't find my frying pan. I think your mother took it. Ever since she was here for dinner, the frying pan's been missing. And he said, well, I don't think she'd take a frying pan, but I'll email her and see what's up. So he said, dear Mom, I'm not saying you took it. I'm not saying you didn't take it. But ever since you shared dinner with us the night you came over for dinner, the frying pan has been missing. And she wrote back, dear son, I'm not saying it's more than roommates. I'm not saying it's less than roommates. But if your roommate were just a roommate, she would discover where the frying pan is. Aha! I don't really think that's intuition. I think intuition, and Vedette van der Reed has a wonderful book out. There are a couple of copies here, and she talks about it, at least in the chapters I've read, about God whispers. And I really think that describes our intuition. They're God whispers, and it's all the time. Whenever we can get still enough to hear them, we are being informed, guided, led. We're being supported. We're being encouraged. We're being loved. That's our intuition. It's all the time. And often it takes us by surprise. The example that came to me that was as I was studying I studied to become a practitioner, and this was 25 years ago. My intuition works daily, but this is probably the biggest example I can think of. That I was really disappointed because my teacher wasn't going to be teaching ministerial training, and I had a longing, a desire, a calling, I thought, to continue on, to study more. And she didn't even have a timeline for it because she wasn't going to teach it to one person. And now that I've been in her shoes, I sure get that. I really understand she made a wise decision, but I was discontent. There was a divine discontent because I seemed to be thwarted in moving toward the good that I knew I was intended to go toward. And one of my friends from the city, so I was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. One of my friends from Calgary came and visited this one day, and he said, well, you know, Dr. Arlene just started a ministerial training class. And as soon as he said it, there was an aha. There was an aha. It was like, oh, I'm moving to Calgary. Now, for the first 6 or 8 months, I didn't move to Calgary. I drove from Edmonton, which was quite an experience in the middle of winter. There was 3 hours there and 3 hours back, and an hour to get across the city. So you could imagine what shape I was in to teach school the next day, but my students were great, so it was fine. I didn't sleep through those next days, I promise you. Anyway, it was like flash of knowing, and it filled my consciousness. Now later on, and I use this as an illustration because you may have had the same thing. You get the idea, and you know it's coming from somewhere deep within you. It's not something your mind made up. And then I tried to talk myself out of it. Not much, because I knew that one was important, but think of the many things that you've done that you knew you were being encouraged to move in a direction, and you were hanging on so tightly that you wouldn't budge. Someone says that everything I've ever released has claw marks all over it, right? Because because the tendency for us is to hang on to our good, thinking that's the only good we're ever going to get. And that's a complete lie. The universe is abundant. It has so much for us. It has so much to share with us, with everyone, not one or two special people, not just the practitioners or the ministers, but everyone. But you need to, here's the thing, you need to get still enough to listen. And sometimes it takes a disappointment or a breakdown, as Vedette says in her book, a place where you just hear yourself saying, like, I hate this, I don't want this, my life isn't working. It takes that to get our attention to what is it that I want to do. Here's the key. This is all I really have to say. The key to deciding whether it's intuition or ego is it fear-based, not intuition? Even though it might make you a little excited, uncomfortable, that kind of feeling. If it's intuition, there's going to come with it a great sense of deep peace. The peace that passes understanding. So here's the whole idea, here's the whole thing, that when we are made in the image and likeness of God, there's no two-ness, there's only oneness. So our real self is invisible, and it's magnificent. It's bigger than we could imagine. It's infinite and eternal. And this real self, connected with the one, it knows everything because it is everywhere, all-knowing. So when we come to a place where we think we don't know, we simply need to connect with that one. As Julie said in the wonderful affirmation we read together, the friend, that friend, which is our constant companion. That's our intuition. Not something separate from ourselves, but our deepest, highest self. Our deepest, highest self. So if it's any fear, no. Here's the other thing that you can check. Is it joy-bringing? Is it joy-bringing? If it's joy-bringing, it's yours to do. If it isn't joy-bringing, nah, don't do it. I gave myself a great treat on Friday night. I finished here about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I thought, what would I like to do now? I could finally unpack my suitcases and put my Christmas stuff away, or, which it really didn't sound fearful, but it didn't sound like fun either. Or I could go to the movies. So I went to the movies, and I decided I wanted to see 2 movies, and I had time because I got there about 6:30. I could see 2 movies. I could do a double feature. So I went to Les Miserables and Lincoln, and I did it in that order. So the person behind me in line said, all singing and then all talking. And that's exactly what it was, all singing and then all talking. But both of the movies were profound. And for those of you who aren't going to see Les Mis because you've seen the play 100 times, see it anyway. See it anyway. They do things with the magic of movie. And that's one of my favorite plays of musicals. I've seen it many times, I think 8 or 9 times. But the movie brings a greater depth than even the play did for me. And Lincoln brought for me so great understanding. Brought great understanding about what it was like in those days. And the need for that 13th Amendment. I'm really glad I did. That was the greatest birthday present I could give myself, was to just, and because, of course, I'm sorry, I'm not a sweet crier, so snot everywhere, you know. That's why I like to do it by myself. I ran out of napkins and Kleenex way back there. Now what? Parts of my popcorn bag. Anyway. Intuition, trust your intuition. I was thinking, way back when I was ordained, which was in 1995, I asked my musicians to learn the reprise of Les Mis, because to me it's one of the most inspirational pieces of music there is. And so I just like to close, not by singing, but just by saying, will you join in my crusade? Now, our crusade is different from their crusade. My crusade is to have people awaken to the light that they are. Will you join in my crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see? When the beating of our hearts matches the beating of the drums, there's a life that's about to start when tomorrow comes. There's a life that's about to start right now, this moment. This is my, oh my God, 67th year. How did that happen? In my mind, I'm still 25 or 35 or 45, but here I am, and this is going to be my best year yet. This year is going to be my best year yet because I say so. And because I'm going to listen to those God whispers more than ever before. More than ever before. And I invite you to make 2013 your best year yet. If this is your birthday month, make this the beginning. But if it's not until December, just make January the beginning. Let's start together and move forward this year. Moving home to that deep self that we are. And knowing that we are bringing the light to each other. I'm really grateful for you and for this place and for our teaching. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.